Hello guys and welcome to this new video. Today we are going to review the Russian Super Final 2015 round 10. I'm sorry for recording this video very late, but I was away from my home today, so I had no time to analyze deeply the game. But anyway, I had a good look at them, so we'll have anyway quality content. So we start with the game Sergei Karjakin against Evgeny Tomashevsky. It's really important to understand for this game that Tomashevsky was half a point in front of Karjakin before the round, so they were first and second, and so Tomashevsky probably not probably, but a draw for him with the black pieces. 2 rounds before the hand was a really good result, as he would be white for the last round and Karjakin would be black, and they would need just he would just need half a point probably to win the tournament with the white pieces. So Karjakin went knight f3. Interesting also that Karjakin and Tomashevsky are both positional player, and it's really hard for Karjakin to go for Tal or Shirov style win. So he goes anyway knight f6, even if he needs the win. So knight f3, knight f6, sorry, so knight f6 for Tomashevsky, g3, and here Tomashevsky makes an interesting decision. He goes b6. I say interesting because for those of you that don't really know how to play against knight f3, g3, and this ready-like system, this game will be really interesting. It will give you a setup to try to play against that. So bishop g2, bishop b7. So you see a good fight preparing on the long diagonal. Castle c5. So seizing the dark squares. So you put your bishop on the light squares and you try to take control of the dark square with the pawn. So e6, d6, e4. Yes, so I meant I went a few moves further. The thing what is good also is that this bishop is looking at the pawn at the center, and this one is looking at his own pawn. So somehow the black pawn structure really makes sense. So pawn to c3. Of course, we try. Both players are trying to control the center with the pawns without occupying it. So knight d7, queen e2, queen c7, rook to d1, and castle. So here, I won't go rook d1, just to say that white could have at least two plans are looking interesting for me as white. So either you want to play d4 and take the control of the center with the two pawn as it happened in the game. So this is what we are going to see, so that I won't explain the plan too much that is going to be played. Either you have the other plan is to go like knight e1, let's say he castles, pawn to f4, pawn to b5, and maybe knight to c2, with the idea to bring a knight to e3, the knight to f3, push g4, g5, so it's attacking the king. So this is the plan, like black is going for the attack on the queen side, and black is going for the attack on the queen side, and white is going for the attack on the king side here. So this was a plan that was possible to play for white, but Karjakin decided to go rook d1 and to prepare the plan with pawn to d4. So black goes castle, pawn to d4, pawn takes, and rook a c8. It's logical as black is trying to take control of the open file. So now white has to improve the position of its pieces. So he's going to replace his knight. He's going knight to e1, pawn to a6, and knight to d3. So he's taking control of the c file a bit and looking at some squares that he might think more interesting. Though I don't really love this type of play. It's not where I'm the specialist, so I don't want to explain the very deep finesse or insights of those plans. But I mean, okay, it's a pretty decent plan, but I don't think you really try to achieve any advantage here with the white pieces. Can you, in this position, find an interesting plan on the queen side for black? So I give you 5-10 seconds and see how you could improve your play, as your play for black is on queen side, and how you could take more control of this side of the board, and keep your hand on the game. So give you 5 seconds. You can stop the video if you like. So black here plays the very interesting move b5 with the idea to play a5 and well, maybe queen b6, maybe knight b6, it depends, but to take space on the queen side, as white still has problem to develop its pieces. Black has time to play this little a6, little b5, then queen b6, pawn to a5, and we get to control on the center. So white goes f3. Don't really like those type of moves. Like, of course you protect the pawn, but I mean, look at this bishop, is he smiling? I'm not pretty sure. I mean, it's not, I mean, you have to win the game with white. It's not really ambitious. So black goes a5, pawn to a3, and now queen to b6. So putting pressure now on the d4 pawn and on the long diagonal. So white goes queen f2. It's pretty much the only move to defend the pawn properly. And getting away from the pin. So black goes rook c2 here, adding pressure on the second file. White goes knight e1, black goes rook c6, and white goes here knight f1. That's really not ambitious again. White could have tried by the computer explanation to play the move b4, rook a8, knight b3, this is the computer line, pawn takes, rook takes a1. So this was the idea of the knight b3 move, and knight takes a1. Here the computer claims this position is equal. Maybe it's true because you will play like, I don't know, bishop e3, maybe, I don't know, knight b3 come back looking at the a5 square, and maybe you can have an equal position, but I mean, with all the pieces on the first rank, it looks very dubious, especially after just 20 moves to be in such a weird position with white. So Karjakin didn't decide b4, he went knight f1, and you're bringing the piece back on the first rank. So here, black continues the plan, rook fc8, bishop to e3, going to the long diagonal. Black goes king d8, queen d8, sorry. Black goes bishop d2. So look, now the knight has to go to e3. This bishop is not really well placed. So he decided to go knight d2, a better square looking at the pawn. So black goes just queen b6, coming back, adding a pressure. So bishop e3 back, queen d8. White, black doesn't want to take any responsibility in this game. He's not doing anything. He just wants to play to make a draw. So he's playing very carefully, and he's not really trying to take a chance of the small initiative he may have, because black here has an initiative, but he's just not doing any effort or take any risk to develop that. So white here go rook ac1, even if objectively bishop d2 was a better move coming back, but he needs to try to win. Here could you find which piece we should improve position here for black? So there's a piece that we could really easily improve the position, which is not the queen, because the queen is well placed here. Could you find that? You can again pause the video if you wanna search for it. So now black goes knight b6, looking toward the a4 and c4 square, as now the queen has nothing to do on b6 because of this bishop in this queen. So white takes the rook, we take back. He goes knight d3, so now trying to develop some activity of the knight for the knight, but you still don't really see where it wanna land. Black finally goes knight to c4, attacking the bishop and having a look at the pawn. So bishop c1 coming back. Black now bring the rook back to c8, wants to unleash the power of the bishop, make sure that white won't play f4 to take the pawn. Bishop h3. Frankly, it's just a move to make the bishop a bit better, maybe threat d5, but I mean it's nothing too strong. Rook b8 for black now, so going away with the rook from this diagonal and preparing the move b4 to attack, to push even more, to expand even more the queen side for black. So white goes queen to e1. So again, having a look at the a5 pawn and at the b4 square. queen b6. So now black is really seizing an advantage as white tried to avoid the repetition. Now black is really having his good hand on the game. I mean, really, white pieces are struggling to activate themselves. It's really hard to find harmony here. Black played the move b4, but he could have tried an interesting idea, which is bishop e4, pawn e4, knight to e4, attacking the queen. So the queen can't stay on this diagonal to protect the pawn. So queen e2, queen takes d4, and knight e3. But just to be totally, totally understand the psychology on the game. Even if Karjakin would have seen this and seen this is dangerous, he would not have worried that Tomashevsky played that because it's risky. You cannot be sure you are not going to lose the game. It's a really three-result game. It's very unclear. And it was always sure that Tomashevsky would not take the risk. So I'm pretty sure that in 99% of cases, Tomashevsky is never going to take the pawn e4. So he went b4, which is an equally good move, by the way. It's not worse. It's not a worse move. I mean, both moves are really keeping the advantage for black. So pawn takes, pawn takes. So you see seizing even more space on the queen side. White goes knight to e3. So it's trying to kick the knight away. Knight a5. So now maybe we come back to b3. Anyway, this knight on e3 doesn't really have good landing squares because you don't want to go to c2. You're not doing much anyway. b3 is coming. On g4 you don't do anything later on. And so he goes to g2 to come back to f4. But even there, I'm not really sure to understand what the big idea. So black plays bishop a6, so improving the position of the bishop. Now the move f4 is not an idea anymore because the pawn is not protected at all. Knight f4. So I got those knight on the red on red squares because they are looking at each other and are not doing much more. The knight can't land on any of those squares. All of those aggressive squares are protected by white, and this by black, and this one is not doing much either. So like they are both in the center, but they are not really helping to do anything good. So I'm not sure. They are kind of pointless, but it's hard for white anyway to find any useful plan. Maybe could have tried to play maybe, I don't know, something like g4, but I mean, just weakening. It's really hard to play here for white. You really just are in counter-attack waiting for your opponent to make a mistake, and we know Karjakin is really good at that. He did beat a lot of players just waiting for the error, a bit like a Petrosian style. And when the opponent makes the error, suddenly it's just clinically finishing off the game. So bishop c4. So now the bishop comes, and then the queen will follow. This is a very important thing to watch also, just to bring your pieces in harmony. Because look, now if the bishop is on a6, like this queen is the first one in the battery, and it's not threatening anything. Here the bishop is first, so if the knight moves away, by example, we are just winning a piece. Well, it's obvious, but I mean, if you have the queen first, then you can attack with the queen because he retakes the queen. So it's good to bring the minor pieces to be the first piece to fire in those battery range. So knight to c1, coming back, pawn to h6, just to make sure there are not no back rank checkmate anymore. Queen c2, pawn to b3. It's always a good thing to bring the pawn here, I think, because white is it has no really just repeating myself a bit, but white doesn't have real activity, so this pawn is not really a weakness. I mean, it's really easy to protect, and now anytime we win the pawn b2 or we put something on c2, we are just 2 moves away from making a promotion or I mean to make a queen. So preparing for the end game, for the final stage of the game, this pawn on b3 is strong. And even if somehow we lose the pawn, I'm sure we'll we will win back the pawn on b2 pretty easily, as we have such a strong battery on the b file. So now I did red square the knight on a5 because it's the only piece that is not useful. I mean the knight and the bishop. So could you find a way to improve your knight position and maybe your bishop position even if it's not going to be played? Give you 5 seconds for that. Okay, so black went knight c6. So now we are looking toward a b4 and the d3 square as well as the d4 pawn. The d4 pawn is for the moment well protected. But anyway, we are doing a much better job than on a5. So white go knight ce2, looking to the c3 square. Black goes knight b4, knight c3, queen a6, moving the queen back, queen d2. And the game, I guess, was drawn just now as the 40 moves was reached. We could have tried to play e5, or maybe played e5 in the game. Maybe it was this position, the final one. It's even more probably this one, which is the final position. What I would like to say is that, I mean, this game was not really interesting to watch live, I guess. I didn't have a chance, but the review of the game is maybe not the most exciting we had all this week. Just I feel this is maybe the last chance Karjakin had to win the title, and I felt it was important just to show you the approach he had in the game, and the fact it's really hard for Karjakin to change its style, to try to go for a win in a must-win position. He's a player that can't change itself really. He's still young, but he's still playing this type of I don't know, I don't want to say anything bad about other players in the world, but I mean he's playing like I don't know, like he's older, like he doesn't have this will to win, trying to go all in, just putting everything in the game to try to become the Russian chess champion. He played in a pretty passive way. He didn't even try to take risk, and he seems just to be okay with the second place. As for Tomashevsky, I would say at the final position he was on -1 on Fritz. He had a good advantage, and it would be nice, I mean, for him just to show his opponents that if you go like that, playing passively, even if I need a draw, I can make you suffer, and like some Carlsen style stuff, I can torture you and make you pay for the fact you just tried to go for a win and didn't settle for the draw before the game. So I mean, I understand his point, and I would probably have done the same as Tomashevsky, just to show you that some of the big name of the game, like Kasparov, Carlsen, they often have they always seize the chance to take the full points. The full point is such situation. Not always been the case, but they might try just to punish you. And here I think that black had a really good opportunity, trying even to play a bit more, as there is one round to go. Still, anything can still change, and black had really an advantage with this pawn on b3. This wonderful knight might jump on c2. Bishop d8, bishop b6 was still playable, adding up more pressure. I mean, black really has an advantage, and it was if he won the game, he would just take the title tonight. And I think he should have tried a bit longer. So, okay, the game was not the most exciting, but I feel it was important to show you this one. So now let's go to our next game of the day, the second one, and we have Artemiev against Denis Khismatulin once again. Denis Khismatulin is black here. The position, maybe I will give you 10 seconds again, and you can pause the video when I stop to talk. Just if you can find the plan and the ideas of both players in this position, this situation. So okay, it's the mid game. The position is closed in the center. We can see the pawn structure is almost closed. If I mean those two pawns are blocked, and This is also pretty much closing a closed situation when black wants to play f4. So it means that white is going for the queen side. Let's make it even like that. And black is going for the king side attack, a bit like in a Queen's Indian, but with a wonderful bishop here on a7, looking at the king straight, having a straight look at the king, and with some very easy play to play f4, g5, g4. So it's really understandable how both players want to go. Rismatulin starting with the move queen f7, so he's adding a pressure on the f file as well as looking at the pawn on d5, which cannot be taken immediately because of bishop c4 pinning the knight or the queen. So white here goes b5, so continuing the attack on the queen side. Pawn takes, bishop takes, rook e7, and rook c8. Here white should have played the move knight c4, attacking the pawn on d6, and maybe with the idea to go a4, a5, and some knight b6 just to bury the bishop, by example. So to add a pressure on d6 just to make sure black cannot launch the pawn storm, and maybe pushing the pawn to b6 and to a5 and bring the knight to b6 to bury the bishop, and then bring the rook to c7 and try to win the pawn with the pawn already on a5. So, last thing, if white goes queen takes d5, he has now rook d2, winning back the d6 pawn on the next move. So rook e7, rook c8, rook takes c8, rook takes c8, and king g7. And here the thing is that it's hard to understand how white can quickly, now that he exchanged the rook, go to attack the pawn and bury the bishop, because this is the 7th square, the 7th rank is pretty much defended. It's hard to see even if you would bring a queen to d8 in some dream positions. Except of the h8 square, you won't do much, and it's also impossible to bring it to d8. But I mean, even putting some dream positions, it's hard to see how white really make a difference. So now if knight c4 to attack the pawn, and that's why rook c8 was a bad move, is that now you just lose your pawn. So what you have to do first is to bring your bishop to f1, just to open up a bit the b file, bring your position in defense, and maybe prepare knight c4 in short future. So what would you have played with black here? Here black starts its plan and goes the move f4. So as I said, adding pressure on the long diagonal and on the pawn structure. So knight to c4, threatening the pawn, praying the pawn. Queen takes d5, pawn to a4, so he's pushing, take, and queen back on e6. So in the last 6-7 moves, white just won the d5 pawn and started its attack weakening the a3 pawn, and white didn't do much. In fact, we just exchanged the b pawn against the a pawn, open up this file, maybe we have chance to play knight b6 at some point, but white didn't really achieve much, while black won the pawn and is having a wonderful attack coming. White goes rook a8, so attacking the bishop, bishop c5 is forced, pawn to h3, covering the g4 square and giving a square for the king. So now black continues greatly the plan with rook f7, activating the rook on the f file. So put your rooks on the open files, can never be a mistake. Rook to b8, attacking the pawn. Pawn to d5, attacking the knight. Knight b2 and knight d7. Here, queen f5 was a lot more precise. You will understand later on. White could have played bishop e2 and knight d7, threatening queen f2. This is already minus 3 or 4 on the computer, and this is just a win here for black. you can't do anything to defend yourself nicely. Anyway, it goes knight d7 first, rook b7, queen f5. So it's almost like we have the same position. Just now, white can play bishop b5. And the thing is that we don't have any threat on the bishop when we play queen f2 check. So queen f2 anyway, king h2, but now we don't have queen takes e2, though we have bishop takes e3. I think you can see here the threat. It's probably a checkmate, like queen f2, bishop f2, queen f2, I mean king g3, bishop f2, king g5, pawn to h5, king g5, and rook f5 checkmate. I think the line is is correct. So queen to d1, covering the checkmate, bishop f4 check, king h1. Here we are going to thread the checkmate in the move queen g3. So threading checkmate on h2. I think you can find the only way to stop it. Queen g1. Well, you could have stopped it with king to g1, but I believe that giving some checks, at least, I mean, this is the only variation I watch, is going to be more than enough to win the game. Maybe it's even a checkmate somewhere. Like you have to give the queen. So queen g1 is forced. Look, it's not looking great. Knight to c5. Rook takes, king takes. Pawn to a5. Anyway, white is totally blocked. So the only thing we could do useful for white, the only good thing we could do is push the pawn. a5, e4, knight d1. And here, black misses the winning move. He goes king e6. Maybe you can find a winning move even if the line is really long, but maybe you have the intuition for the move without seeing the line, the winning one. So the winning move is pawn to e3 with the idea to go knight e4. So white goes knight c3. Bishop b8, stopping the pawn in advance, so it's a computer line. Queen e5, attacking the knight now. Knight to e2 and knight to e4, and here somehow black is getting inside with knight f2 and queen h2, and should win the game shortly, as white cannot move the queen away. Like if you go queen f1 giving a check, you might have the illusion it's good, but knight f2 check back, so check against check, king g1, and here the checkmate in one move, queen h2. So this was the winning line, but it's really hard to see the difference. Queen e6, so it's getting away of the f file to get away from the checks. Of course, if white goes queen takes c5, he goes queen h2, so you cannot win the piece. Pawn to a6, bishop b8, stopping the pawn. Knight e3, pawn to d4, attacking the knight. Knight c2, pawn to d3. Knight d4 check. So here we can feel that white is somehow getting some kind of a counterplay. King f6. Knight to c6 now. So he's going to take the bishop in order to stop those checkmate attacks and release the power of the queen. Here, black goes pawn to e3. And here, white is making the decisive mistake of the game. Knight takes b8. But here, white had a chance to find a draw, to have a draw. Can you find it on the board? So, if you go queen f1, this is a mistake because black goes bishop f4 and is going to threat checkmate again on h2. You go queen g1, he goes e2, and you are lost. So queen f1 is not working. The move that is working is pawn to a7, has to take the pawn. Queen to f1 check. King g5 and bishop d3. Or king wherever and bishop takes d3. Doesn't matter if you go to g5 or g7. The thing is that now the bishop cannot come back to the long diagonal. And somehow white is going to have a perpetual check or even some counterplay, and somehow it's equal and it seems to be close to the draw. So white missed this very elegant tactical chance to win the pawn. So make a deviation for the bishop and then give the check when the bishop can't come back and take the pawn with the other bishop. But after 51 moves, Artemiev played knight takes b8, might look good. Now it's going to be forced. Knight e4, running knight f2. White goes with queen a1 check, king g5. So no squares to give checks because all is cover. Bishop takes d3, knight f2, king g1. So now we're gonna hit the pawn on h3, king h1, knight f2 back. So you see we just went for this check. If after knight takes h3 you go to f1, it's of course a checkmate on f2. It's pretty simple. So winning the pawn on h3, knight f2, so now seizing, taking the bishop, pawn to a7, pawn to e2. So we are going to have two queens on the board. Here, queen a5 check, king h4, so going forward. If you give another check, you cannot give the check on b4 to come back on e7 because the knight protects it. And if you go queen a4, black simply goes knight f4, threatening the checkmate, two checkmates in fact. So you don't have any perpetual check, so you go for the queen, a queen on the board, two queens for white, two queens for black with the check, take, give a check, king h2, knight to e5, threatening knight g4 checkmate. The only move is pawn to g3. Interestingly, if you go knight a4 check, it's just met by queen knight g4 check back, forcing queen takes g4, so queen down. So your only check is not working, so you play g3, queen takes g3 check, king h1, and knight to g4. This is the final position, a pretty unusual one, with the two white pieces being absolutely hopeless to defend this king. In fact, either knight f2, either queen h2 is coming, and if you play queen g2, I didn't analyze even, maybe you have a checkmate, but the simple way is just to take the knight, and on the next move you come back to play queen h2 check. Even, I don't know, if he plays queen e2, you may even not think queen h2, simplification in the end game, and win with the pawns. So that was the great win by Khismatulin again. Let's have a look before I leave you for the last round for tomorrow. Have a look at the standings. So you see Tomashevsky half a point in front of Karjakin. Vityugov is already out of the race. Or TMF, which lost the game against Khismatulin just now, the last we saw, is with 5.5, still on the 4th place, but is being thrown out of the podium. Dubov, Yakovenko, and Khismatulin now on the 7th place, sharing the 5, 6, 7th place on 50%. So finally, Denis finding his pace and winning some crazy, beautiful games. Zvidler, deceiving tournament for him, is 8 with 4.5. Bukavshin is having a good Russian championship. Lise, Motilev, Raihulin are suffering on the 10, 11, and 12th place. So the only win today was the win by Khismatulin, which we saw. So tomorrow are going to be the two interesting games: Tomashevsky against Zvidler and Yakovenko against Karjakin. So we'll see if Karjakin will try with the black pieces to win the game, but to beat Yakovenko with black is a really hard task. And Karjakin is, as we saw today, not a very ambitious player. So I hardly see him win the game. But anyway, anything can happen. It's chess. Someone can blunder. Someone can play the game of his life. So it's going to be interesting. I believe that Tomashevsky will just try to take the draw with white against Peter Zvidler. But okay, it's chess, it's sport. So we'll have more action tomorrow, guys. Thank you for watching. Sorry if I was a bit tired or not as excited as usual. First of all, as I said, I had no time, daytime. It's already 1 a.m. at my home to to make the video, so I was not 100% obviously. And the game I decided to show because it's the deciding one was not the most exciting game we had in the Russian Chess Championship, obviously. So have a good night, have a good evening, bye.